You're not looking for perfect authority. You're actually looking for healthy authority. Community is one of the most essential things in life. We're living in a time where the height of human experience is pleasure. I don't think that you can be fully human unless you experience pain. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the New Rules Podcast. Today, it is solo pod with your boy. I'm running the show today. So what we decided to do is our incredible producer, Lauren, is going to have free reign to ask you whatever questions. I did not prep her about anything. She can ask me whatever. I'm going to answer these questions. Lauren doesn't like to be on camera, so she's off camera, but you will actually hear her incredible voice as she's talking to me. And so as Bree's coming back from vacation, I'm going to be here solo pod, answering anything. So this should be a lot of fun. So, hey, make sure you like, subscribe, and again, comment. If you think my opinions are dumb, let me know you think they're dumb. If you think they're awesome, let me know you think they're awesome. All right. So that being said, Lauren, the floor is yours. Let's do it.
Okay. I have a lot of questions, and we'll just do whatever.
Let's go. I'm ready.
First one, what is your favorite thing about being married right now?
Right now? That's a great question. I think my favorite thing about being married right now is when you've been married for as long as Wendy and I have, you begin to appreciate the stuff of just having a really good partner, you know, because I think we're very missionally aligned. The ability that I have a lot of freedom to do the things that God's asked me to do, and she really does support that. I think she's like, in my weaknesses, she has strengths, and her weaknesses, I have strengths, and so how that actually complements one another. I also think too, it is a different phase too, so we're actually getting to know each other in a different way because, you know, I always tell people when you have kids and, you know, we have one more at home with Peyton, like that kind of 13 to like 17, 18 till they graduate, like you're just like locked in with your kids. So that's why you see people, you know, married people can begin to lose themselves in that process because you're just always there. But it's been really cool, like just like talking and figuring things out and just what does the future look like? Just even having conversations that we have not had in years just because you're so locked in with where you're at. So I think it's just that, just really, I appreciate her so much as really a partner, and then also just discovering new things. That's pretty cool.
You've talked so many times about how you and Wendy have different phases, different stages of life, and sometimes one person is sacrificing different things and the other person is running with something and vice versa. Mm-hmm. How did you decide that Wendy was the person that you wanted to sacrifice things for or with? Yeah,
that's a great question. You know what? I wish I knew that when you're young, like, me and Wendy, I think I was 23, right? I think I was 23 when I got married. And it's like, you don't know that much, right? You like, I liked her. She was hot. Like, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of, but like, and then like, she like loved God. And it was like, and I felt like I prayed a lot about it. And I was like, I just feel like this is the person now. I would be lying to say, I had all this insight that we were going to be compatible in certain ways because there's certain ways that we're not at all. And so I think I didn't know from the beginning, but what I did realize was that right around 2010 or 11, I just watched her so much with Jalen when he was younger. And when, you know, so I've talked a lot about like how she really helped him. And I just realized like very clear, like I need to give her room because she really did die to some of her own dreams at that time. And I knew I had to give her room to actually run and to go do that. And so, and at that time, I felt like that was kind of like torture for me because I'm always like trying to go. But it actually, not only was it a blessing to her, it was a blessing to me because it was really a saving grace because I think like I would not be experiencing things I'm able to experience, be in the city that I'm in, doing the things I'm doing. If I would have went somewhere else, I think, you know, it would have been a lot more difficult road if I would have just said, no, I'm just going to go. So, yeah.
Okay. Your first daughter is now in college.
Yeah.
And your son has been in college for a year. Mm-hmm. What was the difference between sending Brooklyn to college versus sending to Jalen to college? Even though Jalen is still in Tallahassee, but just like the concept of like my son leaving the house versus my daughter leaving the house. Yeah. Was it different? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Because I think your son, there's just a reality that, you know, there's part of growing up that they have to do and carry responsibility. Where your daughters, you just always want to protect them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully you've done your part, and I've done my part with Jalen. They'll know, like, to help him to build, to grow, to, you know, still I want to be a guide for him and help him. But with your daughter, it's like you just always want to protect her. And so, like, with her being as far away as she is, not having access where I could get to her fast, I think that's probably was the hardest thing. And then also, like, you know, realizing that, you know, that probably in the future, you know, and whenever that is, like, you know, she will get married. And there's a sad part. There's a happy part about that. There's a sad part about that because, you know, like, you won't be the first man, like, in her life anymore. You know what I'm saying? So that's for any, like, dad. Like, that's always just difficult. But also, it's like again, you're just ambivalent. It's like you're super excited, but then you're also like, yo, that's sad because of whatever. But I will tell you, since she's been gone, like, it's been incredible for her. And I've watched her grow, and I mean, even this little bit of time. And then also on the other side, like, our relationship has really grown as well because, you know, it's crazy. I probably talk to her more now than when she was here. Like, I mean, I talk to her probably 2 or 3 times a day now. And stuff like that. Yeah, like we'll text or like she'll FaceTime me, she'll do stuff like that. And it's not on like whatever. We just talking. It's just actually, I think for me, I like talking to her because it's just watching her grow up and maturing, like stuff that would have spiraled her down the road, watching her like talk through it and then realize like, okay, like own her part. I need to do better at this. And I'm just like, whose kid is this? You know what I'm saying? Watching her. So that part's been really awesome.
That's sweet. Okay. You have died and your best friends are at your gravesite. This is a very pagan question. You just have to accept it.
I'm good.
And they're trying to conjure your spirit back.
Okay.
What 5 items do they need to bring with them to resurrect your spirit?
Dude, that is a great question. 5 items to resurrect my spirit. It was my friend Seth, because me and him are, you know, we're affectionate scent bros, so we love cologne. So he would have to bring Afternoon Swim by Louis Vuitton. You got to spray that, 100%. You have to bring
spray it on the dirt.
Spray it on the dirt. Afternoon Swim, Louis Vuitton. I would say that my PlayStation. My PlayStation.
With what game? But that would be 2 items.
That in the game? Oh, yeah. My PlayStation and NBA 2K, whichever one it was. Okay. Whichever year it was, it would be NBA 2K. Also, I'd probably say a pair of Jordan 1s for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, a pair of Jordan 1s.
So your ghost can be fitted up?
Fitted up, pair of Jordan 1s. And so it has to be an item. It can't be a person, right?
I think it could be a person.
Yeah, and then I'd probably say Wendy.
Okay.
Yeah. If it'd be a person, Wendy. Yeah.
I asked Cody that probably like a couple months ago, and he was like Delaney, his wife, and then 2 steaks and 2 chairs so that they could eat steaks together, which I thought was very cute.
That was. Now, again, I was like, okay, conjure my spirit. Once you say you bring my spirit back, I'm like, oh, we're like, my spirit's back, so we're rocking out now.
Well, I'm thinking like. Yeah. This is like you're like, yeah, just for a moment.
Okay, yeah, if that's the case.
But even when I asked Brie this, she was like, one of her items was Britney Spears' body so that she could inhabit her body for the day. I was like, that's crazy. Okay,
I thought we were talking about like if you're going, you're just like, oh man, you could just go and just like.
Well, take the question after you take it. So you answer perfectly. Okay, if somebody brought you a box of every item you've ever lost, what item would you be most excited to receive again?
That is a really good question because I'm trying to, I know there's things I've lost in my life, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm just like, what the heck would it be? I probably would say I had a Michael Jordan, that's like really like Michael Jordan basketball card that was back then, and it's actually a pretty expensive card. I like lost it. And so I think that would be one. That comes to the top of my mind right now. Top. Because there's probably something deeper that's there, but right now there's nothing. Because I think once I lose, because like, honestly, once I lose something, it's like a moment where
out of sight, out of mind.
I'm frustrated about it, like, oh man, whatever. But then honestly, I'm just kind of like, all right, whatever. Like I just go get it back or go figure out how to, whatever. It's like, so honestly, I don't really think about it like that.
Fair enough. Yeah. I lack object permanence, so once something's gone, it's gone. Okay, same question, but more like meta version. If somebody gave you this box of all the like traits of yourself that you have lost or maybe have been hidden, which trait do you wish that you maybe not still had, but maybe still had? I guess depends on how you want to take the question.
Or Yeah, no, I get where you're going. Like, so if traits I have, maybe one that I don't bring out as much.
Yeah, or like, oh, I used to be so X as a child, and as I grew up, this just kind of disappeared. Yeah. And I wish I could bring that back.
I would say using my imagination even more. As a kid, I lived like, if some of it was for like just my own like safety, but I lived in my head, and so I created all types of worlds. And like, I could be a kid playing like mini hoop basketball, right? Like for hours by myself, just because I would imagine I am playing in this. I would throw the ball off the wall. I'm throwing to this person. Like I could literally be down there for days doing stuff like that. Or me and my friends would go outside and we would play like, we had these toy guns, so we played war. So we created all these scenarios. And I was the guy who helped us create these scenarios. We had to go do this. So for me, it would be able to do that. And then I would say, and also have the actual courage to go do it. Because when I was a child, it was like, I didn't feel any type of way. I'm like, oh yes, that's what you do as a kid, right? You go out there and again, maybe it was strange, but I just loved it. And so I had the courage to go do it. And I tell my parents, oh yeah, whatever. But I would do that. I think so many times there's things that like, I think about, but then, I start getting into, okay, was that practical? What about this? And, a lot of times I just don't see the world. But that is something I'm actually starting to really work on. It's just seeing this, really being honest with how I actually genuinely view the world. Because I think at times, I'm learning as I'm getting older, there's a lot of things I've seen, I thought would happen, that happens, and I hedge it. I'm always like, well, because you don't want to be the guy saying, well, I think this is what's going to be. But I think I've had enough, like, I think a lot of... a track record, honestly, where I thought things were going to be a certain way that actually came that way. So I'm like, okay, but now it's like, okay, how do I make that world like better? I was just thinking about that today. Before I came in, I was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about the idea of where power is really going, where we were, at one point, we were really, power is very manageable. It was kind of like, you think, like, a lot of, in corporate America, whatever, it's all about managers, right? Even our democracies and everything is managed. Now we're kind of going back to like the royal charismatic vibes, right? I mean, you look at like President Trump, it's like he's got like he like acts like a king sometimes, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and bring the police to Washington, D.C., or I'm just going to do this. And that was kind of like, and what that brought in a certain type of, like the old way of the managing brought in a certain lifestyle. Now, I think we're moving a lot more to this way. So now the question becomes, what does that leadership actually look like? Because I think the old way, there were some good parts about it, but I also think that it was just like, people where it's like kind of everybody's all the same, everyone's kind of equal. You're like, no, there is positional power and things like that. I'm like, now what is leadership going to look like in the future? So for me, I just started thinking about it. How do you actually do that? Because like your generation, I think what we're starting to see is you guys are getting this rap a lot of like, and I get it, of like, oh, they don't like authority, they want to do what they want to do, and da-da-da. But actually, as the more and more I listen and I watch, you guys actually are like okay. You're just want, like, you're not looking for perfect authority. You're actually looking for like healthy authority. Like you're okay with that. You're not like that. And again, what happens? People just create this narrative, gets put out there, and I get it. And because some people like that, and so then that just becomes the easy narrative, and no one really like just millennials and Gen Z. They just don't. They don't care about authority. They want to do what they want. I'm like, no, because I have a lot of them who work with me and work for me, and I'm like, no, like actually, if you have good leadership, good authority, I think they will listen if they know you're for them. That's the big thing. You're not just here punching a clock, but actually, no, I want to see you be better. I want to see you reach your goals, whatever, and for us to do that. So I don't know, but that's a way uphill to get to a point where like that's something I'm like, okay, how do you actually structure leadership to really develop that? To really, what is that? Because we haven't seen that. Because normally what it'll go to, if it comes back to this authoritative leadership, it'll do that. It'll just be like how it was before. All right, well, here we go. It's just, the one person, whoever's the most charismatic person, they win and they get to do that. And a lot of times the most charismatic person is the best leader. So how do you actually build healthy leadership? So that's just something like to imagine what the world will look like, and then like work your way backwards to figure it out. It's
interesting, like we just started at having imagination like a kid and like being, I'm playing basketball by myself because I'm having all these things. And then it got into this like politics, leadership, these things. And one thing that you said was the courage to go do those things. And I agree with everything that you just said. But I think that there's like, okay, let me back up. The thought that I'm having is like motivated by this this micro podcast, which just means a TikTok that I watched.
Yeah.
I just don't want to say that I saw this on TikTok. So this mini podcast,
Gotcha.
It was talking about like capitalism and how people are like, oh, like capitalism inspires excellent ideas and like inspires, like this is the most imaginative way to live. And the person was like, that's not true. It just inspires the ideas that will make money.
Yeah.
And like you can have a beautiful, incredible, imaginative idea, but if it does not make money, then it's like, well, that doesn't matter. And so I feel like even what you're just saying, you weren't like necessarily talking about money, but like kind of like once you get into politics and like leadership, money has to be involved. And that's something that I think is so
lame.
Yeah, I'm like, this sucks. Or like,
no, well, here's what. Okay, no, and I 100% get like how you could get there, but that's not really for me. It's about, because I know people are going to work. People are going to be in environments. They're going to be under leadership. So like I'm like, so for me, my heart's like, I want to like, how do we make leadership really good?
Like this has to happen.
Yes,
whether this is capitalism or
or whatever, or if,
whatever.
Or if he's like, if it's more management, if it's a democracy, charismatic, how do you make leadership good? Because here's what's true: most people, we have to work or do. And again, this is not even just in work. This could be leadership in a nonprofit. This could be leadership in a church. This could be leadership in people's homes. All that. Well, leadership impacts people's lives. You know, I mean, just some of the great things about our lives, some of the bad things that happen in our lives have happened because someone who was in leadership, right? And so I see that, and I want to. That's what makes me. Because I'm like, oh no, how do we make that better? Because I understand if we can make that better, I think you can begin to go to more flourishing. And what I mean by flourishing, it's not money. I actually believe one of the biggest issues, and I would agree with you totally that the most creative ideas, it's not about like how much money it makes. It's about, I believe that great ideas or creativity have some value to it. And that value could simply be like, you know, I think art, regardless of what it sells for, can be incredibly valuable if like, man, someone goes and looks at a painting and they look at that painting and it, you know, and as they're looking at it, it actually brings them like a sense of like, people who go look at the painting, there's just a joy that when they just look at it, they love looking at this painting, and that all of a sudden they may have had a down day or a bad day or things aren't going great, and they look at that painting and like, oh, there's something about it that just changes them. That's like a great thing. And they may sell that painting for $5. Who knows? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think those are the things we look at. But that also goes to why I'm so passionate about leadership and fixing this, is because I want people to have right scoreboards. I want people to be able to say, like, not to be dissatisfied in life. Like, I know for you, for example, like, money isn't a driver for you. It's like beauty's a driver for you. Creation's a driver for you, which I'm like, okay, great. So then it's like, all right, well, what does that look like for your scoreboard to then be for you to like feel like I'm winning? Man, I'm creating stuff. Well, that also means to do that, you have to then, you can't, because I think what we end up doing is still wanting to have to measure or still try to live according to societal scoreboards. So if you're like, man, I just care about creating beauty, okay, well then that means, well, you may create some amazing things that make you a lot of money, you may not, and then you have to live a certain lifestyle, a certain way, and then you're like, okay, that's fine, because I'm so happy, so I'm creating these different things. That part right there is amazing to me. I just think that is the thing when you talk about leadership today, and just, I shouldn't say leader, how humans should operate. That's the one thing I'm really passionate about, is us coming to like reality. I was reading an article recently from Parker J. Palmer, and he talks about this. He uses this quote called being fierce with reality. I think that's so important in today's world, is being fierce with reality, of that we come to a place of having hope, but we're grounded in reality, because I think that's what creates such the disconnection, people not happy, people dissatisfied, because we want, like, you know, create or we want this thing, life, but then we want to make all this money. But then we don't want to work as much as this person works to make that type of money. And so it just becomes a thing like, I guess that's not reality. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just what I'm really passionate about, is that, because I think like somebody like you and out in here is like, you actually have like talent, skills, and gifts. It's like, man, how do you find like, okay, this is good for me? Meaning, like, that doesn't mean you're not like ambitious, and because the more I'm around you, I can see that there's competitive parts of you, all that. It's just that it looks different. And so now how do we shape that? Because to add value into society. So that's why I care about that. So, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. What was your happiest moment as a child?
Wow, great question. Happiest moment as a child would be Christmas Day.
Every Christmas or a specific Christmas?
I would say I don't remember how old it was, but third grade Christmas was definitely one, because I remember it because my parents, this is the one thing they did do really cool. When we grew up, my parents would like, you believe Santa Claus, whatever. So what they would do is we go sleep. They would set up like the room and like the toys, like Santa came in there. So like that Christmas, we were in Knoxville, Tennessee. So that was my first pair of Jordans I ever got. Was that time. It was Nike. It was like paired. It was the Cement 3s. Dude, freaking phenomenal, right? So I got those. And then I was into wrestling back then, right? So WWE, it used to be called WWF, now WWE. So like they had the actual wrestling ring, and then they had like the figure, the toy figures, whatever. So like my parents brought me like 15 of them, and they were all set up like in the ring, like a wrestling match. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I'll never forget waking up, and then I got like a Nintendo game. So, and so I was just like, so it was like you woke up, you're like, everything I wanted, I did. So it was like the rest of my Christmas break, that's all I did. So every Christmas I would get excited because it was like, oh, it was a surprise that was going to happen and what was going to be there. And it was just, I think it was really the creativity of it, of my parents like setting it up, doing stuff like that. That part was really cool for me.
Okay. I have a few more questions.
Okay.
You just got arrested.
Okay.
What did you do?
Someone threatened one of my friends' life.
And you did something.
And I harmed the person who did, yes.
You got rid of the threat.
Yes, there we go. I am definitely the friend from like the movie The Town. Like whose car we driving. Like that, I'm definitely that friend for sure.
Mine is arson.
Really?
I love fire.
Yo, that's wild.
Like if I could just set a building on fire with no repercussions, I would do that every day.
Really?
It's just like fun. Like I just think that seems so fun.
Okay, so is there like, has that always been the case?
Arson?
or just like fire? Like
Affinity
you like
to fire? I don't know. Like maybe. I think it's just like.
Okay. No, I don't know. Every time I do this, because this is going to date me, but there's this. You ever remember? I don't know if you're definitely not old enough, but there was a cartoon, Beavis and Butthead.
No,
it's on MTV. So,
I've never heard of that.
So anybody who was Gen X, some millennials may know it, but that was like there's these two. They were like stoners, and they were like it was like MTV thing, and that's what he would do. He would like spaz out. He'd be like fire, 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 fire.
Yeah, I feel like it's like some like deep like cave woman instinct of like liking fire.
Dude, that is actually hilarious. When you said, "Yeah, I'm just gonna upset it," I definitely went. I thought it'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do some type of elaborate, like kind of like an Ocean's 11 type of crime or something like that."
I'm setting everything on fire.
Fire. Respect.
Okay, more serious question. Okay. How do you balance the even like feeling or talking about expressing the weight that you feel in your life and like maybe a sense of vanity or self-righteousness? Not that I'm not like projecting this is your thought also, but when I think about like, oh, I feel like there's this thing that is special about me or this, my first instinct is, okay, everybody thinks that you're being very vain and self-righteous, like put that aside, do whatever it is ahead of you. But then I can think of people in my life where I'm like, oh, I do actually think that something about this person is especially special. Like not that anybody is not special, but something about this person feels very different. Yep. And so it's not that I don't think that can be true, but I guess to think of myself that way feels vain / yeah, it just like feels like inherently self-righteous.
Yeah. To be honest, some of it is out of like insecurity, wanting to find a sense of like meaning and purpose. So for sure, like those are things I've had to work through and continue to work through, where you're like, you're able to, oh no, I'm willing to share these things. We're talking about authenticity, whatever. The one thing I'll talk a lot about authenticity and also be very clear of like, yeah, I'm not fully authentic. No, I don't think anybody's fully authentic this side of like eternity. I think you're constantly working there. Am I better than what I used to be? 100%. I think that what I try to do is, it's always about what I'm always asking myself this question is, what's my agenda? What's my agenda with sharing this? Is it to gain popularity or a clip to go viral or, to get people paying attention to me? Because I'm going. That's what I ask, and I think that's just super important. Like I think if you're honest with yourself and your agenda, it's like, no, I just feel like this could help someone. Or sometimes it's like, no, me sharing this is therapeutic for me. I don't think that's wrong either. You know, but if it's like, oh, but if I do this, it's going to lead to this. I think that's when that's when you start to feel the, like, we can't, like, even though the words and the tone is normal, but it's like the frequency underneath it. You're like, ugh, that's kind of, they don't sound arrogant. They're not like, you know, I'm the great, they sound like, but you're, I mean, I've had people like, their tone is like even, they're like whatever. And I'm like, that's really ugly. Like, you know, like, and you can't say because, like, but then you feel like you're crazy because you're like, why do I feel this way? I'm like, man, they didn't say anything wrong, but you're like, no, you communication is so much more than what you say is what's underneath. So I think you always need to be asking yourself, like, what's your agenda? Why are you actually doing this?
So then, aside from like what anybody may think, because now you have you could tell me, or just in your head think, oh, here is this weight that I think is on my life, and you also have the responsibility of these things now. They're not just in your head anymore. Like, you have a company, you have multiple businesses that you impact, all these different things, and so you have the evidence of like, oh yeah, I maybe felt this way one time, and I'm doing these things, and there's still more things to come. But when you were first starting, how did you internally accept, oh, this is a weight that I feel on myself, not because I'm trying to be self-righteous or I think that I'm better than somebody, I just actually feel this? And how did you, back then, before you had started these things, if you just like had this sense of this is what's coming for me, how did you internally accept that then?
It was, I'll be honest with you, it was torture. It really was awful. I used to sit in my therapist's office, and that's one of the things that if you ever talk to him, he'll say it was like a consistent theme. I would say, in my soul and my heart, I feel like I'm called to impact the world. That sounds incredibly arrogant. Who the heck are you to think you can impact the world? But I felt this, and I finally told him, I was like, I wish God would just take this away. If I'm not supposed, because I was the same way. I'm like, I'm just delusional. I'm freaking delusional, and I don't want to be delusional. I'd rather, if my lot in life is just to I'm gonna be a husband, be a father, you know, man, have a local thing, business, and that's it. Like, would I be disappointed? Yeah, but I'm also like, okay, but this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm like called to. Then okay, then I'll do that. But like, the desire never went away. It just kept growing. And I'm just like, man, please. So that was always this wrestling I had with God. I'm like, are you just like, do you play games with people up there? Like, kind of like, hey, you know, I'm just going to give this to you and not really making any change. And so it was a lot of wrestling. And I mean, a lot of like sadness and depression, and a lot of like, man, I'm never going to get there. What's wrong with me? Why do it's all, and then you start seeing other people who you probably, I mean, who maybe, I mean, legitimately probably are more talented than, and there's some people who you weren't more talented than. If you start seeing them, just boom, it just pops and they go, and you're like, and I just realized, like, what really got me to settle is that I think we get so caught up into how that plays out versus like the end result is what ultimately matters, right? So for me, honestly, I think it's I think it's like, you know, listen, I watch like the clips we drop, the level of production you do, and like, you know, we get some traction and things like that, but nothing's going, it's viral, it's whatever. And I think literally, listen, whatever people who listen to your belief and faith, I think a lot of it's God, because I'm like, for me, a lot of what I do is supposed to be a lot more like underground stuff. Like, there are rooms I sit in and things I do that people would never have any idea that actually really move a lot of things. And they'll never have an idea that I was the one. And even people who sit in the room at times won't give me credit for it. And that part's really hard too. Because, you know, I'm aware enough to know, like, yeah, if I was not in this room, this would not have went this way. Some people who are very aware, they can recognize that, but a lot of people don't, because everybody has their own insecurity and they want to take credit for it.
Sure.
But I just have realized, like, a lot of my life is that, and like I've said this here before, I believe many times, especially if you're a Christian, I think your calling really does kill the idolatry of your heart. And the idolatry of my heart is like, I just want everybody to like me and know me. And I want you to worship me, right? That whole thing. And it's like, nope. You do all these cool things, and some people know, some people won't know. And I do think in due time, you know, one of my good friends once told me, he called me, like, it was like 5 years ago, and he just was randomly just praying for me, and he said, out of nowhere, he's like, I was just praying for you out of nowhere. He's like, it just like dropped, and he just like, I felt like I didn't call you. It was like, and it was Genesis 12, where he's like, I literally feel like God wants me to just let you know, like, he's going to make your name great. And that's really difficult, because it's like you have to just wait, and you're just like, and you still have to work hard. But it has nothing to do with you. It is literally the paradox of faith. You're like, you have to work your butt off, but then it all depends on God. And so it's this constant tension. And so I think, but in the middle of that paradox is where you meet God and you find yourself and things like that.
Wow. That was beautiful. Okay. Last two questions. Okay. What is the most,
clip that one then. Yeah.
I got you. Right. The most fascinating fact you've learned recently.
Great question, Lauren. What's coming top of my mind is this idea of AI psychosis. So just learning more about it, of how people really that
it can happen, even
that it can happen, the type of people it happens to, just like how do you put guardrails on that? I heard a story the other day. It was super sad of a 16-year-old kid in Minnesota who killed himself. They had all his chat threads. He literally put the rope around his neck. At one point had the burns on there, and he kind of trying to show his mom, see if she could see it. But he's right, no one really noticed or recognizes me. And it was and again, I'm not, it's both, and it's not just the chat, it's just whatever. But it's people are going there, and and if you don't train that chat well, it's just gonna, it's just going to be very, because they'll put call suicide prevention, do stuff like that. But anyway, people can go and they start having these God complexes. There was a murder suicide that happened not too long ago, and it was because of chat.
Whoa!
And so it's like people who are unstable a little bit, they can go there and they can just take you down that road. And so that's why I think it's really important that, again, the work that we're trying to do of helping people be self-aware, resilient, is because of that. Because, man, if you don't have that, you can go into this delusional space. I believe that in the future, you're going to see more and more divorces happen because people are going to go there and go into this delusional space. Because when you're in your chat, if you don't train your chat to be able to, hey, speak truth, speak clear back to me where I'm wrong, and it's you're just telling it one side of the story. You know what I'm saying? So it's that friend, you're telling one, it's oh yeah, so all of a sudden oh, it's this, and you don't ever hear the other side is going to probably agree with you. Yeah, if you're not happy, go do it's just stuff like that. And I think that, and I think it leads to this. I think so with that, the AI psychosis, and it doesn't probably seem like it connects, but the other really extraordinary fact is that I think that we're living in a time of where the height of human experience, to be a human, is pleasure. And I don't think that you can be fully human unless you experience pain. And so I think those two things, I think you should experience pleasure as part of it, but I also think you experience pain. And I think that where we're going with AI and where we're going with a lot of technology is that this romanticized thing of trying to build a utopian world that just enhances our pleasure, but doesn't allow us to experience pain. And I think that that's where we have to be. And that, so again, it goes back to kind of circling all back to the beginning of for me, the creativity to speak up for the last several years, and you've been around, I've been talking about authenticity, self-awareness, resilience, empowerment, right? And I think that that's what it comes down to is the key, authenticity is going to be the, it's going to be the coin of the kingdom. And I think you got to teach people how to be actually tough enough, and they got to be aware enough, and then be tough enough to remain that, because it's going to be so easy to be so disillusioned, be so disconnected from yourself, and stuff like that. Even when you think about people doing a lot of these drugs now, like ketamine. That's all ketamine is. When people it's just to disassociate,
right?
And for some people, it's good medically because man, you've got so much pain, you're trying to do that. But for people who aren't I was talking to a doctor the other day actually about it. He's like, man, people who are like mentally stable, like ketamine can take you like to a crazy world because you're already disassociated, and it just 3x's that. So I think that's what I've been learning. AI psychosis, all that stuff. So just where we're at right now, it's actually a concern. But I also think that, there's ways that we have to figure out how to fix it instead of just being like, oh, AI is all bad, let's get rid of it. Let's actually put our heads together. Let's actually figure out how to do it. And so,
yeah, I feel like even like to the point of pleasure is a part of life, and so is pain. I think when you were saying that, I was like, I feel like I would add to that also that both of those things are designed or are best experienced, some on your own, but also to be shared in community.
Absolutely.
And when you take away community and it's just like on chat or anything on the internet, really, where you maybe have perceived community, but it's not even real community, is gonna make problems even wider. And even like with community, I feel like there's such a trend on the internet now talking about being willing to inconvenience yourself for the sake of community, and that good community is very inconvenient. And if you're only willing to show up for community when you feel 100% or when something is going to serve you or you see the like immediate value in it, you're never going to have deep sincere community.
No.
And even that is like, oh, here's this good thing that is inherently painful and pleasurable.
Yep.
And if you're trying to take the pain away from it, you will never even experience the absolute joy that really sincere community is.
I can give you, you are 1,000% right. I was with one of my best friends, and we both are in we both are in like kind of like just a season of our lives where things are like really difficult. And I think it's because we both are in like transition type things. But while I was with him, I was in the greatest place. He was in the greatest place. And so I'm there, and, I kind of share a little bit. But then he started to share. And as he was starting to share, and, normally he's always been that friend where he's just so good at like, okay, let me dive in, let me help you, da-da-da. Mm-hmm. But as he started to share, I literally felt we were driving, and I'm like, no, I need to just let him be. And so we spent the next like 2.5 hours, 3 hours talking about his stuff. How do we feel? What about this? Because honestly, it's like what your gift is, right? And that's what it is. Like what I'm good at with my friends is helping pull out who they really are. I give them room and freedom to be who they are, because a lot of times, you just don't even realize you start playing a role, a part, a title, whatever, versus like, no, what's really in there? And so I started doing that with him. Well, what about this? Well, this is what and it was just like, and here's what happened. Doing that, as much as he would have been very helpful for me, it would not have helped me the way that me helping him did. Because honestly, from that moment, it was like one of the things I was trying to get settled in my own heart and soul, I got settled by helping him, which then has led to a lot of like really amazing things that have happened over the last like week or so. And so that was really cool. But it's like, honestly, but as I was doing it, it was like so much pleasure working with my friend, getting through his pain. Mm-hmm. And I do think that because you're right, community is one of the most essential things in life. I don't, when I talk about blessing, like people use that word a lot. It's not, finances is a small part of that, or, monetary, whatever. I'm telling you, one of the greatest gifts, blessings God has ever given me in my life is relationships. Mm-hmm. It's not even, is the money, influence, whatever, nothing compares to that. Like, that I have incredible, like, friends. I have friends I fight with. I have friends I've been friends now with, like, and you'll see this as you get older. I got friends I've been friends with for, like almost, 30 years. Like, you can't make up that time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, because that's what happens sometimes in certain communities. People are like, well, you need to make room for other people. I'm like, yeah, but like, you're never going to catch up to that. Mm-hmm. That's 30 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, me and this person, like, we've looked each other in the eye, and like, it's like, yo, man, like, are we standing? We're going to keep walking together, or are we just going to walk away from each other? Like, and you decide to stick it out with each other. And now you see the betterment of that. Like, there's just something that's there. And so, I think that's a great part. I would encourage anybody, like, man, you don't experience the fullness of life, pleasure and pain. You don't experience the fullness of it. Like, you were right on in the community. So that's awesome. Okay.
I would love advice, fresh perspective, your experience, whatever. Something that with my own community that I've been having a really hard time with recently. Mm-hmm. You've talked about how with clients or people, like younger people, whoever it is, that you're like, oh, like, I can tell them all day what I think should happen, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. Mm-hmm. That feels chill to do and accept when it's somebody that you don't have to talk to that much. Mm-hmm. But when it's one of my close friends and I'm like, if you would just listen to me, your life would be so much better. Or maybe not better, but like you would have to experience this thing, and then I can see how this would be so good for you. Yeah. And I find the internal narrative that I have and that I don't like, but I cannot get out of recently, is I know what's best for everybody. And if they would just listen to me, like, we would all be happier. And I don't think that that's actually true. Yep. Like, cognitively, I know that that's not true. Mm-hmm. But I keep feeling this way. And then I keep having to apologize to my friends if, like, I'm sorry that I just, like, really harshly shared this opinion with you that you weren't asking for, instead of asking you questions. Like, multiple times, even this weekend, I had to apologize to my friend. And I was like, hey, I, like, literally just told you last week that I was going to do better about this. And then I just did again. I'm really sorry that I did that. Yeah. but it keeps happening because I keep feeling this way.
Well,
and so I'm like, how do you
get better?
What is wrong?
Yeah,
like,
no,
why?
no,
Not even how do
no.
I get better? Because I think if the internal changes, then my speech towards my friends will change. But I'm like, I can't get over this feeling that I know best.
Absolutely. So here's what I would tell you, and this is going to seem very counterintuitive, but I would explore that more. I would explore more. Why? Why do I think because why do I think I know what's best for everyone? And go down that road and like walk it out. Even if you feel like, I think I'm this because of this. And when I did this happened. When I did this happened. When I said this definitely happened. And just go down that road because, it's one of those, it's one of the main, as many of you guys hear me talk about Dr. Zoda. He's a mentor. Like our relationship goes in 3 levels. It's like he's a mentor. He's like, a father figure. He's like one of my closest friends, and then he's in our church, so I pastor him. So it's like this weird dynamic we have. But this is some of the best advice he's ever given me, and there's so much he's given me. But the idea of being curious and compassionate is one of the best things he's ever taught me, because what we do is we judge ourselves, like you did. You were like, okay, I know cognitively, I know I'm not right. So what you'll do is like, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. But you aren't. I know you're not like over here like, I'm just like, I just know I'm right. And the rest of you morons, like, no,
these fools.
Yeah, but I think for you, but you don't get to the root of why. I actually think the root of why, if I were to take a guess at it, and you could take it, would be friendship and relationship matter so much to you, and I think because of that. Like you genuinely dude, I want you to thrive. Like you find so much joy in your friends thriving more than you thrive, right? I believe that. But here's the other thing I think for you. I think as well, I think for you finding value, I think sometimes you don't think just being around is enough for your friendships. So because you don't think it's enough for your friendships, then I have to be this then.
I need to provide this value at all times.
If I don't provide this, then I'll shoot. Then what am I bringing to the game?
Right.
Then they're going to leave
and
me,
my friends are like, please chill out.
Yeah, right? And so I think, but again, those are just, I think you have to go through it, dig through it a little bit deeper. And then after that, just but I also want to encourage you and commend you for like a lot of people wouldn't go and be like, hey, I know, even like you said a week ago, most people like, I just told them I'm sorry. We go, heck no, I can't go tell them again. I'm like, I'm just gonna let this one ride. Next time I do it in 4 weeks, I'll say it again, right? No, but you went and you said that. That shows humility. That shows that you care. And that is actual real leadership and growth as a friend, because you're willing to own those mistakes and things like that. And I think the last thing is that it's really hard when you really do care about people. It's knowing where you end, next person begins. That's really hard because I have to deal with here's when it gets really real. Like when we have kids, because it's that's the closest thing, And it was I think that's one of the reasons why with Brooklyn and my daughter, we have such a good relationship, is because I learned really how to self-differentiate with her, even though at times internally, dude. I wanted to be what I'm saying, her first boyfriend. I'm like, dude, and he's a great dude. I'm like. And he honored. It was amazing. I'm like when they broke up, it was mutual. It was it wasn't anything. But I wanted to kill him, and he's a great kid. He's a phenomenal kid. I'm like, I literally wanted to murder him because why? It's my little girl, right? She's crying. I'm like, whatever. But I had to learn. Okay, do not respond out of what you're feeling. Be just this in this moment. And she's got to feel this. She has to walk through this. She has to go through it. But that's what you learn. And I think that what you're learning right now in your relationships, Lauren, if you can learn how to do that, you're just practicing for just even more, more in the future, more eventually with your spouse, because you're going to have that. You're going to have to be when you have a spouse, what's going to happen is that with your spouse in the future, you're going to watch them and you can't be the person hey, if you just listen to me, you can't be a person when he comes back to you told you so. You know what I'm saying? Because what that does is that literally strips, that'll strip a man of his say dignity, but also his willingness to go try something. Yeah.
Well, it's just, I think even strips a lot of safety out of the relationship of I don't feel so comfortable failing in front of you because you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Told you.
And it's the whole idea of already, it's it is not because it feels he doesn't, he already feels the pressure of man, like, I care and love this person. Like, no, I want to go do this. And then like, you fail. I'm telling you that what people don't realize, or anybody that's, you listening, female, you're in a relationship, like, I want you to know, like, if you were married or you've been in a relationship for a long time, I want you to know, like, disappointing that person is like enough pain in itself, because you genuinely want to like prove, it's kind of growing up, right? When it was the girl you liked on the playground, you darn near like kill yourself trying to impress the girl on the playground, right? Now, if you actually been in a relationship with this person, that's what you're trying to impress. So it's like, I think that so many times when those moments happen, people don't realize how hard it actually is. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of times with men, I really try to encourage them, not because it's like, yeah, men have been toxic and all this stuff, but like, we still can't strip the fact, I know what it feels like to carry. I think it's inherent for men to carry responsibility. And to really try to go out there and to try to make something. And so I commend any man that even if they fail, they're trying to go do something. I just, and again, you have to have wisdom and be smart. You can't just keep making the same mistake 15 times and expect your spouse to be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. We're bankrupt again. Like, no, you can't do that. But you at least got to give them some room. And so I think this is just part of you just practicing, growing and learning and stuff like that. But I do think also you do have wisdom. So you can't deny that and walk away from that. You just have to learn, like, okay, how do I say this? Mm-hmm. When do I say this? Always one thing I can do is ask people, hey, when they start telling you, I used to do this all the time, like, hey, because I'm just like you, and I'm like, because I already got the answer, so let me just tell you so we can get this over, right? What you got to do is ask, hey, is it okay? Yeah. If I like give you my thoughts, or do you, or here's another one. In this moment, what do you want me to be for you?
I even told the friend that I had to apologize multiple times to, I was like, listen, in the future, since clearly this is difficult for me, like, I would really appreciate if in the moment when you are feeling intimidated by because she expressed that I was kind of intimidating, when I get into these spiels of mine. And I was like, in the future, if you like feel the need to justify yourself to me, or like that I'm being intimidating, or that I'm just enforcing my opinion when it wasn't asked, I was like, I would really appreciate if in the moment you're like, can you just ask me questions? Because I absolutely trust myself to be able to be like, oh, you're you're right, like, pull me out of it, I can handle myself, and like accept that like somebody's like, hey, this is not what I want. But even just like saying, I was like, you have the please, you have the permission to do this, and like, not that I think that she couldn't have done that anyway, but I think it's helpful when somebody's like,
if they feel intimidated,
please help me, like, I am. So okay,
nice.
Well, when you asked me, or you pitched this episode, was there any question that you hoped that I would ask you that I didn't ask?
No, honestly, when I was driving and when I was like this, and I was trying to, like, we were thinking about doing something different, but I think it's just better when it's like, Bree's here and we do it. But I was driving, I'm like, no, I want to do this with them because I think you're thoughtful, and you're going to ask just not typical questions. You're going to be like, no, like,
what horse do you want to ride?
You're going to go in like on some like, you're going to throw stuff out there, and then you're going to ask stuff that's actually, I knew you would frame questions that were actually get to like the heart of certain things, right? And it wouldn't just be like the typical, oh, hey, what's your favorite color? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it would get underneath that. So for me, I like it. And again, even as I'm talking, there's stuff like, I probably will go back and listen to this, because see, the best parts, honestly, some of the best things I learn, or I end up saying, they actually happen in the moment. Yeah. They're not like where I'm like, oh, I was just sitting there. Sometimes I'm thinking about it, but I'm a verbal processor. So I'll just sit there and talk, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, as I'm like processing through, I'm like, and I'll say something, I'm like, oh, that was actually really good. And I did think that, you know what I mean? But it's like, so that's why I knew you would pull out some of those things and actually, communicate. So no, I thought you asked an incredible question. So
this is fun.
It was fun. All right, sweet. Well, guys, hey, I hope today was actually helpful for you. If there's any questions that you have, make sure, again, drop it in a comment section. Let us know. We would love to answer them. And until next time, keep writing new rules.